Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to do Arch Linux base installation. Essentially, I will explain there is a script called R-install which you can use to like automate the process, but we're going to be using like a step-by-step, line by line, as how it's described in the Arch-wiki installation guide. For example, here, right? So we will be doing a btrfs file system installation, and I will be using the virtual machine to kind of install that. If you want me to make a video on the actual hardware, just let me know. But essentially, this is like more of a learning process in a virtual machine that you can try, and then you can use it on your actual hardware. But let's go ahead. So I'll spin up a virtual machine here in the VMware. So I'll create a new. Okay, before you do that, let's just go ahead, and you need to go ahead and download the actual ISO from here. You can go here on the archlinux.org and download the actual ISO from your nearby country, essentially from the mirror, right? So once you do that, you can go ahead and put it somewhere in your, you can use the Balena etcher, or if you're actually installing it on a hardware, you can use a Balena etcher, this one, or you can use something called Ventoy to write it on the disk, essentially, and then use the USB to boot into it. Essentially, you restart your machine. Each motherboard has a different key for the boot menu option. For example, mine is F8. Your might be F2 or delete, or you can even go into the BIOS and change the boot order and then boot into the USB, essentially. And that will allow you to boot into the live ISO. So here I'm going to use the VMware to create a new. So let's go and select my ISO. I have the latest one here. We can go ahead. We'll give like a maybe gigabyte of RAM to 8 cores. We'll create like maybe 30 gigabyte of 30 gigabyte basically. So I'm only going to be doing a base install. Essentially, what I mean by base install is that already in use is saying, and delete this, right? Just give me a second. Sure, let's choose this one, is fine. And I can customize the configuration. You can here you can choose NAT for the VMware if you're using a virtual machine. Otherwise, you can. I'm using a bridge network, so I'll use that. Make sure you select here the UEFI. If you want to use the other one, the BIOS, that's also fine, but it's a different process. I'll only be using UEFI. So yes, for the memory, we can do enable share is fine. Here you can choose the what IO, right? So we can choose the enable boot menu, and we can choose the CD-ROM to boot from it initially. Well, there are ways to optimize all this, but for this one, we don't need to worry about it too much. I'm not going to be using the acceleration. So let's go begin installation. All right. So we can go ahead and choose the Arch Linux install medium. So it will boot into the live ISO essentially. Go and check. Yep. All right. And we are into the live ISO. Let me see. You need to set up a terminal font. Essentially, let me think it's is clear enough, essentially, right? So yeah, I think the font are clear enough, is big enough. But we can go ahead and first of all let me just do a full screen here. All right. So first of all, you need to worry about whether you have the internet up and running or not. IP link. So here I have a Ethernet connection in the VM, so it's fine. However, if you're on a Wi-Fi, you can use something called IWCTL. It's a utility, so that will have you connect into the Wi-Fi essentially. You can use the device list. So it will give you the list of devices essentially. You can then do station, and you can select the, like for example, let's say your device name is WLAN0, right? And you can do WLAN0, and then you can do scan, right? So it will scan all the networks, and then you can do get networks, essentially. Get networks, essentially it will give you the list of networks. Then you can do connect with the SSID, whatever the Wi-Fi SSID is. It will ask you for a password, and you can do the password there, right? So let's do that. Now we can update the system date, time date CTL to update the system clock, right? Yeah. So that's fine. It's a UTC time zone, which is fine. Now the first thing you need to do, now this is a blank hard disk. So if I go and do lsplk, lsplk is the utility to list the partition. Yeah, okay, here. So as you can see, I have a disk for 30 gig here, the VDA, essentially. So I need to go ahead and use to modify disk. There are multiple disk utilities that you can use, essentially, but I'm gonna use something called CF disk. So you can do like man CF disk. So this is like a partition utility. If you are uncomfortable with using the terminal utility, what you can do is also like you can download a live ISO which has UI. For example, one of the ones I like to use is the Endeavor OS. They have a nice GUI, so you can just log into Endeavor OS. You can use the KDE partition manager tool, and you can partition your beforehand. You can partition your hard disk beforehand. Generally, I would recommend that if you are new to this, don't use the tool, because if you have already some partition already there, and you don't want to, make sure you take a backup first. You don't want to get caught up into where you lose all your data, right? Anyway, so let's go to CF disk, and we'll do dash dev dash, need that much, VDA, right? Let's do that. So because it's a fresh disk, it will ask us the partition, like a partition table. We can choose the GPT. So everything is free. So what I need to do, we want to create a boot partition, essentially. So we want to create a boot partition. We want to create a swap partition. You can argue whether you need the swap partition or not. Here, maybe I'll create a 4 gigabyte or 10 gigabyte of like 4 gigabyte of partition, and the rest can be the root, right? All right. So let's create a new partition here. I'll give it a 1 gigabyte for the boot, right? And then I'll create a new partition. I'll give it a 4 gigabyte of swap partition, and then I'll create everything else is my root partition. Because we are using BTRFS, you can have your separate home partition, but for BTRFS, I wouldn't really recommend, because they have subvolumes. Essentially, it's a logical partition system, and it's kind of, you can use some other utility like rsync or timeshift to take your backup somewhere else from the home, right? But if you really need, you can have a separate home partition. That's perfectly fine. anyway. All right. So we'll write this into, right. So I need to change the type to this one to EFI system. So let's change this to EFI system. And then this one to swap. This should be a Linux swap. Let's go and do that. And this should be a Linux file system is fine here, right? Okay. And then we'll do write. And make sure you type lowercase s here. Okay, if you type Y, if you type capital S, it might not write it. Okay, so here, once it says the partition table has been altered, then you can go and quit this utility. To quit it, you just type the Q, and then it will quit. All right, so we can check it again by using lsblk, and you can see the partition type there, right? And you can even see, man, if you want to see the file system type, output the info about file system, right? So I think you can do like output list, right? So you can do plus F, I think. So you can do plus F. Sorry, my bad. Plus dash O and then plus F. Sorry, what was the again? I think it's like if you do dash O and plus UUID, it will give you the, oh my god, it will give you the UUID of the things, yes, and you have the file system type. So for file system type, I think you need to do, let me just double. Raw, CSI. Just do the dash O. I think it should be fine. You can just do dash capital O. It will just output all the, oh my goodness. Maybe not a good idea. Yeah, you can just do dash F and it will give you like a file system type. The issue is we haven't actually given it a file system yet. We need to format it. We just give it a type. So let's go. Okay, so first thing first, we wanna get the name. So it's a VDA123, right? So we make the VDA1 fat32 mkfs.fat, and then we do f32, and we'll do slash div slash VDA1, right? So then it's VDA1. Right, so you can do dash F and it will give you, so the VDA1 is fat32, right, essentially. All right, then we're gonna do the Linux swap for the other one. That one we can make it, yeah. So what can you do? mk swap. So we'll make it a swap, essentially, VDA2. Yeah, so it will make a swap for that, and we'll enable the swap slash VDA. If you want to use a ZRAM, means like a inbuilt memory swap file system, that also works. If you want to do that, I can do a separate guide for that, but for now I just make a, you can even like ignore the swap file system, you don't really need to make it, but if you only need that if you're like doing hibernation or something like that. I generally disable hibernation because yeah, I really don't like it. When I want to shut down my PC, I really want it to shut down, so I generally don't use it. But if you really want to, you can have even the ZRAM into the file system, like a memory. It's like a physical file essentially instead of a hard disk. And then you can do, we will create a btrfs file system for the third one, /dev /vda3. All right, so yes, and that's created the file system. Okay, yep. All right, now we will create a sub volumes for the btrfs essentially. So first we want to mount our file system, the third hard disk, into like a /mnt folder. So what we'll do, mount -o, and then we'll do no time. I have some, these are all parameters to the mounting for the btrfs essentially. Sorry, not this one. First we will do just the normal mount. So there /vda3, and we'll mount it as /mnt, right? So we mount it, and then we'll go to the btrfs su cr. It's just a short form for subvolume create. btrfs subvolume create. We'll create the root subvolume, right? And then we'll create home subvolume, right? And then we'll create a log file subvolume, and then we'll create var cache subvolume for caching. Essentially, you want, if you're looking, the reason we do this is because to exclude it from kind of like if you're taking a snapshot backup using the btrfs, right? So essentially is to exclude them. Like you don't want to take a snapshot backup of your home, log file, cache file, and I will also add opt here, right? So I'll add one more opt, right? And then we'll unmount umount /mnt. So we'll unmount that. All right. So that's done. Now what we'll do is we'll mount it using the btrfs, essentially. We will mount the sub volumes as a separate partition essentially. So what we'll do is mount -o no time compress is equal to ZSTD and space cache equal to v2. Make sure you do v2. I think there was a reason why I did that, but I don't particularly remember. We'll specify the sub volume at home, and then the root essentially, sorry, and then dev/vda. This is gonna be common, dev/vda3, and then we'll mount it into /mnt. So that's mounted, and we will go ahead and make the necessary our file system folders, required folders. So we'll do boot, home, var, opt, ham. So we'll make all those folders into our root directories. So you will need that. And then we'll make directory for mnt/var/log and cache. So we'll make those. And then we'll mount the other subvolumes essentially. So we'll do no time. Essentially, you can just do the same one as this one. And here, instead of, we'll do subvolume home, and we'll mount it to /home essentially, right? And then we'll do var log. I think I missed to create the var cache subvolume. It looks like. Yes. All right, let me go ahead first and unmount all the stuff. Sorry. So what I can do is umount -r. It will recursively unmount everything here, and we'll mount this one again. we'll mount this one again, and then we'll create the var cache folder. We'll create var cache essentially. Yep. And then we'll unmount this again. We'll mount the root again. We'll mount the home again, right? Then we'll mount the var log to that var log. So that would be /mnt/var/log, and then we'll mount the cache, and that would be var cache. All right. And then we'll mount the OPT. The reason you do OPT is because sometimes actually there is a good reason you might not want to do OPT, but the thing is, like, some of the packages, when you install it through Arch Linux, it will install the programs into /opt. For example, like some of the IDEs, right, for development, like a Rider, or some of the if you install DaVinci Resolve, right, then it will install in OPT. But if you take a snapshot and revert it back, it might break your the package cache or the DB file, right? But I think generally it's okay. I generally like to do the separate OPT because they have huge programs there sometimes, and I particularly don't want to take backup of those. So yeah, I don't like it. So all right. So now that that's done, we're gonna mount the boot now. So mount /dev/vda1, and we'll mount it to /mnt/boot. Right. Now you can see the lsblk again, and that's f. Oh my god. Anyway, so you can see. Did I mount the /home 2 times? That's weird. Let me fix that and come back to you guys. But generally, that's how it's done. Okay, I think I fixed it. Essentially, I think I made a mistake in the mounting, but essentially it should be mounting like this. You can see the I use the umount-r to unmount everything first of all again on the MNT, and then you can see the commands that I use to mount everything back to the way it's supposed to be, essentially. So first you mount the root subvolume, and then home, varlog, varcache, opt, and then you mount the boot partition to the thing. So then it should have this kind of layout. Essentially, your boot partition is mount to /boot /mnt/boot, and all the other ones, essentially, right? All right. So what we need to do next is we will update the mirror list so that we get the high internet speed. So for that, we use something called reflector, and then we'll do protocol reflector dash protocol. We'll say HTTPS. We want to download over HTTPS. You can choose the country for your nearby country, essentially. Australia, will the latest, let's say 5 is enough, and we'll sort them by rate, and then we'll save it to the /etc /pacman.d, and we'll do mirror list, right? All right. and you can check that whether it's updated or not. So we can do a cat on the mirror list, so you can see like it's chosen the nearest. You could do, hopefully I have Vim. Yes, I do. You could also update the pacman config, pacman.conf, and let's update that before we, because it will copy the pacman conf into your system. So we'll get some colors. Sure. Verbose packages, I like that. Parallel download fine, 5 is fine. We don't want testing. We can enable the multi-live here. And what else? Let me see here. No progress bar. We want progress bar would be nice. Yes. All right. I think that's all. And we can write that. All right. So the next thing we want to do is we want to packstrap. Use a packstrap command to install the base packages into our essential packages, into our, essentially we are trying to make our own system, right? So we want to install it into our own system. So what we'll do is packstrap -k, we'll do /mnt, we'll do base. We can use the Linux kernel. You can use other kernel also if you want. We'll use Linux firmware. We'll use the V to, basically we'll use the NeoVim. I like NeoVim. BTRFS progs. That's for some of the BTRFS stuff that we need to do. The file system, DOSFS2s, exFAT progs. This is also, you can interact with different file system. NTFS3D, if you have a Windows file system that also that you wanna do. We will use network manager. We'll do that, and then we'll do mandb for man pages, for helps and other stuff. We will do SOF firmware for sound, SOF tools, and text info. I think that should be about it. Do that. All right, and it will install the stuff, and we wait until it installs. In the meantime, while it is done, does that. It should be pretty quick. My internet is, well, I am using it. Well, funnily enough, my LAN is not fast compared to my Wi-Fi, and I'm using LAN on this one. But it should be fine. Because my LAN is not directly plugged into the, it's a different story. Generally, I can make my LAN faster, but I don't have that long of a cable, so forget about it. Anyway, see, it's already done. All right, so that's done. Then we will create a fstab file, again, essentially, so that we can mount our file systems and boot into it. So we'll do gen fstab, so it will generate the fstab /mnt, and we'll do /mnt/ etc/fstab. So it should create. And so we use -u to make sure that we use UUID. We don't want to use names of the file system or the partition because it might change, but UUIDs won't change. And you can check it. So /mnt/fstab. Sorry, my bad. It should be /etc here. Yeah. As you can see, first we'll mount the root partition, the btrfs, then we'll mount the boot system, and then we'll mount the swap file. All right. All right, so that's done. Now we will root Arch-chroot into our file system. And this is now we are actually in our system. Things are not done yet. So let's go to the next. We will, first of all, we will update the zone essentially. So you can go ln-sf and use it. So we update our time zone. We can do zone info / let's say Australia, and you can find all of it here essentially. All right, and we'll do, let's say that one, and we'll do this etc local time, right? All right, so that will be our, and then we will sync the hardware clock, hw clock dash this. So this will sync the hardware clock. Yeah, I see. All right. Now we wanna set our locale for the file system, essentially like a US or your whatever your locale is. So we'll do because I already installed NeoVim, I will do that locale.gen, right? And we will find en underscore US, right? Right, and then we will uncomment the UTF-8 one, right? All right, and then we'll write this down to Q. All right, and then we'll do locale gen. So it will generate the UTF-6 generation, and then we'll set the locale for language as well. Lang equal en underscore US dot UTF dash 8. We'll do that, and we'll do /etc/ locale.conf. So we'll put this language config, locale config into our etc. So we'll do that. Now we'll set our host name essentially. Let's say this is our OLU-VM. This is our ordinary Linux user. We'll put it into /etc/hostname. All right. And then we will edit our host file. So this is fine, but we will add one more. All right. So we'll add one more for, we'll say, because we added OLU-VM. Oh my goodness. Whatever. And then we'll say .local domain. And here it should be OLU-this. All right. Yeah, I think that's how it should be. Yes. This is to resolve like local host names and other stuff. If you're running some local servers, we'll set some password here. You can set your whatever your password for root here. Okay, so we'll set the root password here using the passwd. The pacman config should have copied with the when we do the packstrap, but we can check again. Pacman.conf. Sorry, should be nvim. Root dir whole package is fine. It doesn't seem to be a, yeah, it didn't. Okay, looks like I have to do it again, but you can update that and enable the multi-lab repo extension. Okay, I thought it would copy it, huh? All right, well, that's fine. It's good to have a double check here. You can double, triple check to make sure that everything is as it is. Okay. And we enable the multi-lab, so that's fine. And then let's do the SYY. We'll update the sync. All right, that's fine. So we sync the database. Now we'll install some essential package for our grub, essentially. So we want to install grub to our things. You can also, on the, there is a refined package, refined boot manager as well. But you can essentially go with what you like. I'm gonna be using the grub because I like grub. Nothing wrong with it. If you like refined, then you can use refined. Put mgr base. We'll do base development packages, and then we'll do Linux headers. Right. We'll do OS prober. OS prober is for if you have some other tools, sorry, other operating system, you want your you want grub to detect it, then you can install the OS prober as well. Git m-tools, git is important, please install it. xdg user dirs, I believe. Yeah, dirs. This is to create the create any user directory when you create a new user. So let's do that and proceed with installation. Yeah, we'll do that. Alrighty. All right. So now we want to add our BTRFS module into our kernel module, essentially a module into the kernel. We want to load it into the kernel. So what we can do is mkinit pio.conf. We load that, and in the module section here, you add the BTRF here, and then if you have some other modules you want to load, you can load it as well. That's fine. But for me, like if you have an NVIDIA graphics card and other stuff, I haven't gone through like the installation of like the graphics driver or anything in this one. I'll make a separate video about it if you want. Here is just the base installation. All right, then you do that, and then we will regenerate the init ramfs files, essentially init cpi init cpio mk init cpio dash p, and you give the image the kernel name. Essentially, we are using the latest Linux kernel 6.14.7, which is nice. And then we will have some support for Bluetooth, so you can use that. Blues utilities, cups for any network, Awahi for service discovery, and NSS MDNS. This is to make any printing, network connection with the Bluetooth and other stuff easier, you know. All right. And then there is one more thing we want to do here. We want to update the NSS switch file config, and just here we want to the reason why I do this, it was recommended in the Arch-wiki. So here you resolve my machine mdns underscore, and if you're not found equals return, you do that. That's all. And then you do write it. Okay. Now we will add our own group. So let's do user add. We will do mg, and we will add it into the group will to make it a pseudo user. And I'll say let's OLU. All right. And then my password we will set for OLU. All right. And then we'll do editor is equal to nvim, and we'll do vsudo. This is to make our life easier using the sudo command. So you'll do go here and you'll uncomment this line, the wheel. It will give the wheel, what all the users who are in the wheel group essentially sudo rights. All right, that's done. Now we will install grub. So we will do grub install, and we'll do target equals x86 underscore 64 dash EFI. Make sure you type this correctly, otherwise you're gonna have trouble booting in. /boot, and then we'll do bootloader. We'll give a bootloader ID is equal to, right, target. Let me just double make sure everything is correct. Dash EFI directory, yes, and we'll do that. And it should say no error reported. And then we will do etc/default. We will edit the default grub file, grub. So here if you only have Arch, you probably don't need to do this, but if you have any other operating system as well, then you can go ahead and do this grub disable OS prober false. Just uncomment that essentially. So that will allow the grub and OS prober to detect other file systems, other operating systems. Grub, we'll make the grub configuration file, and that's -o/boot/grub grub.cft. All right, and then it should have. So you can see like it found the Linux image. So that means it found our grub. It found our Arch Linux boot entry essentially. So that's nice. Now we will enable the systemctl enable. We'll enable some of the mandatory essential services. We'll enable the network manager. We'll enable the Bluetooth. I will enable the cups. So for printer, we'll enable the Awahi daemon for service discovery. All right. We will also add OpenSSH. So if you wanna remote SSH into this one, that would be nice. And then we'll do systemctl enable open SSHD. Sorry, SSHD. Yep. And Let me just see what else I need to install. Yeah, let me just install while I'm here. Let's install firewall D to install some firewall stuff, right? And we will also enable firewall D. Okay, and we will install some of the fonts, I suppose, right? Just I want to make sure you can set the if you have the dual boot, you can do time date ctl set local rtc is equal to is 1, so it should be fine. And we'll do pacman dash as pacman contrib. We'll install that with some check updates and other some helpful scripts essentially. We'll install some font as well. So I like Adobe Source Font. This is Sans OTC fonts and Adobe Source and serif. We'll also add some serif dash fonts, and then ttf liberation and ttf jet brains mono node, I believe. Let me double check the package name. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, JetBrains dash mono dash node. All right, let's do that. Yeah, we'll install some fonts to make it easy, our life easier. All right. Okay, and now what we'll do is we will do a reboot. So we will exit from the chroot. Okay, and then we will unmount everything from the /mnt. All right, and then we will do shutdown. All right, and then it should open it again, and then there you have it. You are in the Arch Linux grub. We should be able to log in using our OLU account, ordinary Linux user, through password. There you go, you are logged in, and you can do sudo pacman as fast fetch. We can install. Yeah, sure, we'll do that. Fetch. Yeah, there you go. Right, let me know how you guys feel. I can do more setup to set up like the genome or the KDE or terminal hyperland, whatever, right? So yeah, well, see you guys in the next time. Bye bye.